Ross's selection is a little bit different, but it's not the kind of deck that I put Ross on, but this is one of the decks I think is one of the best decks in the format that no one's playing.
And Ross sent me a message on Facebook saying, I'm thinking about playing Bant Heroic, what do you think? And I said, it seems like a deck that would be good against Esper Dragons because you have a clock backed up by counterspells. And that, to me, seems like the recipe you'd want. So Ross is playing it at least slightly partially on my recommendation. Now it makes me apprehensive that Joel Lissette feels like this matchup is not good from the Heroic side, so we'll see how it goes.
Yes.
But.
And the card that Ross is splashing for in Jamoka's command does not play a very large role here. That said, he is the Heroic deck that really gets to cast Treasure Cruise. He does have 2 main deck copies, able to cast it because he has 8 fetch lands in his deck. He'll sacrifice one of those right now in Windswept Teeth, a forest or a plains on the way as we are underway here in round 4 from Cleveland. Yurchick with just 2 islands. And Yurchick coming in this tournament, no buys. You're not going to find his name on our Open Series leaderboard, at least not yet. Ross with the plains here. And he will play a copy of Laguna Band Trailblazer. That immediately makes it known what he's up to.
Gotta get the beatdown started. Though I guess they technically have not started. Since it still has 0 power.
It is at 04. Here's a copy of Anticipate from Adam. Anticipate, an interesting card in these control decks. Some players feel as though this is just an auto-inclusion. Adrian Sullivan, however, coming off his Pro Tour top 4 at Pro Tour Dragon's Arc Hero, said, I don't need to Anticipate my blue-black control deck.
Played 0.
Yeah. It's interesting. Adrian's process, which he chronicled in his article, his tournament report actually for the Pro Tour, was I thought I was supposed to Anticipate because it just seems like a card you're supposed to play. But the more and more games he played, he just realized this is the card that's just, I wish it was just anything else.
2 mana is a lot to spend if Mono Red's going to be one of the better decks in the format.
Yeah. Ross going to sacrifice the Flooded Stream. Islander Plains on the way. And there is an island. I believe Portal?
Yes, that is Portal. Good eye.
Thank you. It's a Hero of Iros. Now if you're Ross, and you see your opponent start with 2 islands and anticipate them play a swamp, I think your assumption is Esper Dragons for this particular weekend. Maybe previously it was blue-black control, but I think if you're Ross this weekend, you're thinking, okay, this is some sort of Esper Dragons, a Dissolve, a Dig Through Time deck.
Yeah. Until you see evidence to the contrary, I would just assume that it's Esper, maybe blue-black dragons, but probably just Esper Dragons.
Dissolve will resolve for your chicks and leave that top card on top. Here's a copy of Defiant Strike on the Laguna Band Trailblazer. So those beatdowns that you were looking for, they're finally here.
Trailblazer's all grown up.
Yep.
Got a point of power and everything.
It gets in for 2 that turn. Defiant Strike gives a little bonus as well. So look at that Trailblazer go.
Good deals all around. Now, a card that has made things a little bit worse for Heroic strategies, in my opinion, is Foul Tongue Invocation.
Yes.
Before, you could go pretty crazy. The format was light on edicts, and now the most popular deck in the room is playing 3 or 4 copies, and that's not good news.
Thoughtseize from Yurchick is going to take the Treasure Cruise. The hand here for Merriam. He has a Hero of Iros, a Seeker of the Way, a God's Willing, and a land in hand. Adam with a Caves of Koilos and just a passing of the turn back to Merriam. Foul Tongue Invocation is a very scary card for this Heroic deck, no question. It does make you wonder, as Merriam will play a Temple of Mystery and Scry here, when we'll see the ultimate Edict effect in Crackling Doom surface. A lot of talk on social media about Crackling Doom being probably the best card that's not seeing play right now.
Particularly in a format where people are playing with very large or untargetable, challenging to kill dragons. Edict effects are very potent against that deck, so the Curve of Beaters backed up by Crackling Doom seems like a reasonable metagame choice right now.
There is Foul Tongue Invocation. Bye-bye Laguna Band. Adam just looking to keep the board clear, it seems. There's Hero of Iros.
Someone should be playing with more dragons. Failed to meet the reveal requirement.
Fortunately for Adam, the card is still good.
That's what I actually like about the Esper Dragons list is, of course, there's dragons in them, but there's not so many that those cards like Slumgar Scorn and Foul Tongue Invocation are automatic. You do sometimes not be able to meet the requirement.
Yeah. There's Dismal Backwater. Adam will gain a life, and it looks like he'll just pass the turn. Doesn't look too thrilled about how things are going thus far, even though the board is quite clear. Here, Rose going to come into the red zone. There's another copy of Foul Tongue Invocation.
Well, you can kind of get the sense right now that Adam, well, he certainly doesn't have a dragon in his hand. And if he's trading 1 for 1, that's pretty good for Adam because he's favored as the game progresses. But one of his dragons would probably seal the deal right now because Ross has nothing going on. So as long as Ross keeps being able to cast his stuff, he's at least got a shot. If Adam's hand is just lands or other 1 for 1 trades.
Hero Heroes and a passing of the turn there from Merriam. Yurchick with 5 mana available. There's the 6-1, Haven of Spirit Dragon, and now there's Dragonlord Slumgar. So perhaps a top deck there from Mr. Yurchick.
I think that's likely.
God's Willing will counter this effect. It'll turn Hero of Heroes into a 3-3 thanks to the heroic trigger. A little scry action as well. Top card will go to the bottom. God's Willing is done resolving.
I suppose it's possible that Adam didn't want to reveal the dragon, but it feels like 8 life is so good there that that Dragonlord Slumgar was probably off the top.
Yurchick is creative. I'm not sure he's that creative. There's a Seeker of the Way. The problem here for Merriam is the Dragon Slumgar is huge. There's a 3-5, so no good attacks to be had. Also has Death Touch.
Another problem here for Ross is it's not like it's good enough for him to trade a creature with the dragon because of the Spirit of the Dragon Haven that Adam has.
Yep.
So he kind of needs to do something to work around it because just running a creature in and trading with a pump spell is not good in this spot.
You can take a look at Ross's build as here's a dig through time from Yurchick. You know, the question is, okay, how do I work my way through this Dragonlord Slumgar, 3-5, or, you know, a card like Dragonlord Ojutai or whatever dragon enters the battlefield. Sometimes we'll see in builds of this deck a card like Aqueous' form. And you're not going to find that here this weekend. Actually, you know, what's happened with the heroic deck is cards like Aqueous form have been really cut down or cut out of the deck list. And a lot of the auras actually have been really cut out of the deck. So you've got 4 Ordeal of Thassan, Ordeal of Heliod. That's really it.
Well, Dromoka's command is now taking one of those slots.
Yeah.
And in some of the blue-white builds, that would be maybe an Aqueous form or 2. In the Jeskai builds, that's where Temur Battle Rage goes. So those cards are not as potent against Dragonlord Slumgar as something like Aqueous form. You really need something that makes your creature unblockable.
Yurchick's dig through time is done resolving. He is reaching for mana very quickly here. He'll play a copy of Ashiok. Looks like that elevator's going up. So Plains, a Defiant Strike, and a favorite Hoplite. Pass turn back from Merriam. And the big issue here is that for Ross, I don't want to say he's on a no-outer right now, but this is a very hard card for him to get through.
Yes.
Dragonlord Slumgar. He has to work so hard to try to get through this card. He's going to play Defiant Strike right now in Hero of Heroes.
If there was no Haven in play, it would be a little bit different, but what's likely to occur here is that Ross is going to have to spend the majority of his resources here getting that dragon and the Ashiok off the table, and then Adam being able to get the dragon back for free is a big problem.
See what else Ross can get together here right now, because he is certainly in a difficult situation. The longer the game goes like this, the better it is for Yurchick. And Yurchick's draws are just better than Merriam's.
Especially now with Ross having only 1 Treasure Cruise left in the deck.
Yeah.
One being tagged earlier by Thoughtseize. He's not drawing to a ton of productive cards.
Yurchick going to reach for some mana here, it seems, maybe for a spell. Perhaps he is just waiting patiently here. Merriam's Defiant Strike did resolve. So Hero Rose is a 5-power creature. And Seeker of the Way is a 3-power creature thanks to Prowess. And he's going to very cautiously attack, it looks like, with both of them. No, it seems that Ross is very unsure of himself on what kind of attack he wants to make here.
A lot to play around in the spot, and if something goes amiss with this attack,
It's probably over.
yeah, Ross is already barely hanging on in this game, in my opinion.
Ross is slowed down on the attack front. He's going to play a copy of God's Willing now. Going to use that aggressively, looking to force through some damage. trigger Heroic as well.
A sign of desperate times.
Yeah, to say the least. Here's a dissolve from Yurchick. Top card goes to the bottom, thanks to the scry. Can't forget that prowess to trigger again, so it's a 4-power Seeker of the way. So there is your block. Dragonlord Slumgar is going to go in front of the big hero heroes. Feels like maybe a Dromoka's command here. Yep. So you'll see Seeker of the way get a little bit bigger. And it looks like he wanted to get Ashiok off the table. So a lot of work done to get Dragonlord Slumgar and Ashiok off the table. We'll see how much that actually accomplishes, though.
I mean, the Haven's still in play.
Yep. And Yurchick has cards in his hand.
And a lot of light to work with, too.
I mean, that was a very long and complicated turn there for Ross. If you saw, he was just trying to plan everything out. Looks like he used all of the cards that he had available because he's left with just a Mana Confluence in hand. But he has to hope that Adam has not very much going on right now, and I just don't think that's the case.
It does not appear to be the case if Adam's setting aside some of his graveyard here to dig through time.
Yep. And he will dig right now. So, of course, this means he'll take a look at the top 7 cards, and he'll take 2 with him.
And Adam's got so many good draws from here.
Yeah. It does not take a lot for him to close the door on this game.
Removal spells, counter spells, other card drawing, any dragon, just Crux of Fate, Bioblade. I mean, Adam did not immediately take Bioblade, Crux of Fate.
Yep.
Just gives you an idea of how good his options are right now.
Potentially how good his hand is, too.
Yep. Yeah, if he's giving up a Crux of Fate here, not good news for Ross.
Looks like he has found a combination of cards that he's happy with as Dig Through Time is done resolving. His land for the turn is Dismal Backwater. He'll gain a life. He'll pass the turn back over to Merriam. Merriam will draw. He's in here for 3. Yurchick will take the damage, perhaps using his life as a resource. Haven and the Spirit Dragon will be sacrificed. Dragonlord Slumgar is coming back to the grip. This land is no joke, by the way.
Low opportunity cost, and, one game out of whatever it is, 10, 15. Doesn't have to be a high number where you're able to rebuy Control Magic.
Yep.
Your huge flyer is pretty impressive.
Or Dragonlord Ochitai or
whatever.
Yeah, Ugin. See if Adam's going to take this hit, too. Looks like he will dig through time.
Yeah, Adam is not even in a rush to get the Dragon Lord back into play. He's got enough life to work with where he wants to set up the perfect hand and leave Ross with no hope of getting back in.
This is a great demonstration in patience, and this is something that I personally have gotten to watch Adam do a lot over the course of his career. He's very skilled at playing control decks and saying, okay, I don't need to kill this creature right away. He started all of this at 17.
And he knows he's not going to get burned out in this kind of matchup. Yep. It's not like he's got to worry about Stoke the Flames or Atarka's commands finishing him off. He can use his life total as a great resource here. There's no haste in Ross's deck, so he can be as patient as he wants to be.
And he can basically set everything up and make his changes the way that he wants to make them. There is Dragonlord Ochitai with 2 mana available. You have to imagine that's for Slumgar Scorn, Bile Blights, whatever.
Some answer. Wouldn't surprise me if Ross attacked if Adam blocked and was anticipating being able to use one of his removal spells or counter spells here to trip Ross up inside of combat.
Now there's an immediate block because this makes Ross have to have something, and he has in the copies of Giant's Presence. This will trigger Prowess, and if Giant's Presence resolves, then it won't be bad, but Slumgar Scorn is pretty predictable there. It's going to counter a Giant's Presence. Won't stop the Prowess, so we'll see a trade, but that's fine.
Adam just wants to exhaust all of Ross's resources.
Yep.
Remember, he still has Control Magic left in the chamber.
Yeah.
For somewhere down the line, so.
He's another Dragonlord Ochitai now, too. And this will be our first time today to just see Dragonlord Ochitai really just go to work. Not sure how many more turns of this Ross wants to play. And it's funny because Ross is at 28, but all it takes is 1 hit.
Ross still may want to just see cards.
Sure.
I agree with you that we're kind of as Andrew Trout used to call it. We're in garbage time right now,
Sure.
but still no reason for Ross to concede.
Garbage time is apt as here comes the Dragon Lord Ochitai. He will connect. Adam gets to take a look at 3 cards. Take one with him. And see, all it takes is one.
Okay.
All it takes is one hit. There's no coming back from this thing. That thing hits once. A heroic deck doesn't have removal for it. I think we all know that.
It's really funny. Those are moments that I love in tournament Magic because it's one of those things where there's literally no upside to playing the game on.
Okay.
Because you get to see cards, there is upside to playing the game on because you get to see cards, and there's some small chance that Adam commits some violation where maybe you get to pick up a game for free.
Sure.
So from a strict, game theory standpoint, you should always play it out until the end. But different people have different levels of tolerance for just getting their head kicked in. At some point, some people just say, I've had enough, even though if you were strictly focused on just winning the tournament, you should play it out there in those spots. So I just love to see what different people's thresholds are. There's some people like Reed Duke who'll he'll just take it all day long. That guy just never quits.
5 more. I'm down to 13 or whatever. That's fine.
Right. There's players like me who probably would have conceded to the Slumgar scoring. And then there's the everything else in the middle. So I love seeing it.
We'll take a look at the sideboard. We'll start with Ross. He's got a couple copies of Aqueous Form here, 2 of those, 3 copies of Encased Ice, 3 Stubborn Isle, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Treasure Cruise, in Island as well. It looks like a couple copies of Glare of Heresy. But those don't look like those are going to matter all that much. Looks like maybe an Ordeal of Heliod as well. But I think the Stubborn Isles and maybe even Aqueous Form are going to be pretty good here.
I like the blue cards a lot here, the Stubborn Denials, the Disdainful Strokes, the Treasure Cruises. I think Aqueous Form is a reasonable card to bring in. Keep in mind, Ross has Dromoka's Commands and Ordeal of Heliod that needs to get out of the deck in any case. So
on Adam's side, he's got a couple copies of Drowning Sorrow, 2 of those, 2 Bile Blight and Ultimate Price, and Ugin the Spirit Dragon, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 copies of Tassiger, along with a Dragonlord's Prerogative, and a couple of other interesting options that I don't think are going to play a huge role in this matchup. Stratus Dancer as well.
Yeah, so what I like here are the 2 copies of Bile Blight, the Ultimate Price, and I do think that Ugin is a fine way to try to lock up the game. It is really expensive, but it is a hammer lock if it shows up. So compared to some of the other expensive cards that are in Adam's deck that aren't game winners if they show up, I think 1 Ugin is reasonable to bring in.
Well, these players will shuffle up here for game number 2, and we will talk about someone who's not from Cleveland but grew up pretty close by, and Patrick Chapin from Detroit, Michigan. He's got books, 2 of them, that are available.
2 books here, Next Level Magic. Very, very good in terms of working on your Magic game and next level deck building. Just by far the best book that's ever been written about the art and science of deck building. They're both available on paperback and ebook. Especially exciting for Next Level Magic as it's been sold out of paper book for quite a while now. They're available right now at StarCityGames.com/nextlevel.
The Innovator, maybe with a 3rd book on the way. Who knows? But definitely check out those 2 as they are fantastic reads.
Very excited. I got a text from Chapin a few days ago asking for my address so he could send me a copy of the book,
very nice.
which I very much appreciate, and will be my airplane reading once I'm done with my current book.
Good on you. I can definitely appreciate that.
Try to have some airplane reading.
Can't read The Economist anymore?
I mean, that's an hour's worth of reading, and a lot of the flights are longer than that.
Okay.
Hour and a half, depending on my interest level in the various topics.
Get yourself a nice book. I'm slowly but steadily working my way through the collective bargaining agreement for the NBA.
Oh, that is some dense reading.
It's hard. It's really hard. And long.
Typically, that's the work of lawyers.
Well, I'm interested in that sort of thing right now, so I've got a highlighter.
The NBA specifically, or the art of collective bargaining?
The NBA specifically. I want to be very well versed in those topics.
Because you and I are sort of collective bargainers, you know?
I suppose
it's good to know. It's just good to know these sort of things.
One could argue that, yes, but we are collective bargainers.
I believe the NBA and the players have a revenue split of 50-50. If you and I could get a 50-50 revenue split with Star City Games, I would agree to those terms.
I would as well. Perhaps we should have the conversation.
It's worth looking into, just saying.
I've been told they have no interest in having the conversation. That's just been piped in through that.
That's just how negotiations work, man.
Okay.
You start high, they lowball you, and then you work somewhere in the middle.
We'll have to work on that
Right.
a little bit for next year.
But that's why it's good
First
to
of all,
read.
nothing's going to happen until we get these hippos. We might just not. If there are no hippos this year, we're not coming back.
I would love the counter offer of no revenue sharing, but we will make the hippo playmat finally.
Done.
And that's just being immediately
Done.
done.
Give me the contract.
Yeah. What a bunch of suckers. They finally
right.
agreed.
If there's no hippo, I'm out of here. That's my line. I've been talking about it for over a year. Here's a favorite hoplite. I'm happy that we're in Cleveland doing a show here, but I never even begged for that. It's been all about the hippo.
And to be frank, I'm a little disappointed with only one New Jersey show this year. Gotta throw that out there.
You had 3 last year.
I know.
I don't feel bad for you.
If anything, is not enough.
3 should not be the bar. I think 1 is quite a few. We only have 1, really?
No, I think there's a season
there's
4
one.
open. I
Yeah,
might be
yeah,
mistaken.
stop
Season
it,
4
stop
open.
it.
So only 2.
Oh, darn. Our first time here since 2013. You're a really tough guy to please.
It's always our best attended event of the year.
Okay, here we go. Here we go.
In what is empirically the best place in the country to live.
A manic influence. We're going to have an attack at least for 1. Don't know if Ross got anything else to do this turn. Seeker of the way. Looking to give the beatdowns. I think it's really important for him to at least have something on turn 2, but having a 1 and a 2 is really nice here.
It's insulation against foul tongue invocation, which is really important here. And he's just got to get ahead of the curve here. Just keep the pressure going, get himself in a position where Adam has to play into counter spells. That's what Ross's game plan's got to be.
Bob Light there on the main phase from Yurchick. Smart because of a card like God's Willing. Don't want to run into that trick. Adam way too smart for that. Even though it is an instant, instants don't always have to be played as instants. There's a favorite hoplite. Pass the turn back. We'll see if Yurchick has a card like Drown in Sorrow here.
I'm interested to see if Adam brought it in. It's a card initially when I was covering the standard format where I thought that just comes in against heroic decks. Now I'm more of the opinion of when you're on the draw, I don't think the card's very good. It's very easy for them to outpace it.
Defiant Strike on a favorite hoplite. See if Yurchick has a response. He has a Bioblades. Merriam has in a Johnny's Presence, which will, in a weird way, work because he gives +1/+1 and then a hero trigger. So this will work. And we're also got some prowess triggers here from Seeker of the Way too. Can't forget about that.
Yeah, this has the makings of a very good turn here for Ross. Got to do some counting now.
Figure how much damage he can deal. Manic Influence going to be tapped for some mana. Maybe another Defiant Strike. Yep. Not doing bad here. Going to give a healthy beatdown this turn. Don't have to worry about a card like Murderous Cut. Not enough cards in the graveyard. So life is pretty good here for Ross, all things considered. Another Manic Influence. And now a passing of the turn over to Yurchick.
And Ross gets to do all this with a second creature in play, which is important for his clock and to protect himself from foul tongue invocation. Still gets to keep his Big O.
Dismal Backwater, a little life gain here for Yurchick. See Adam at 9, Merriam will untap. Take a draw here. Temple of Plenty was the draw step. A Johnny's Presence, a card that a lot of players have moved to in this deck. It's interesting, we've gone through so many different effects in Heroic to go along with God's Willing. We've seen players with Feat of Resistance, Center Soul, other options. Here's a Treasure Cruise. That's going to be a Foul Tongue Invocation. See if Adam has a Dragon to reveal. Doesn't look like he does. Seeker of the Way will be sacrificed. Cruise is going to resolve, so Ross is going to draw a couple of cards here. Looks like Disdainful Stroke was one of them.
Talk about another card that swings a lot on the play versus on the draw. Foul Tongue Invocation in this matchup feels like going to be a lot better. If we go to game 3, it's going to be a lot better for Adam game 3 than it was right there.
Yeah. And for 4, and the follow-up is another copy of Favorite Hoplite. Again, very important because of Foul Tongue Invocation. So Yurchick is going to untap, take a draw step.
Does mean Crux of Fate's very solid right now.
Yeah. It's interesting because what are you supposed to play around here? Are you supposed to play around, like, this is what makes it difficult, right? Am I supposed to play around another copy of Foul Tongue Invocation? Am I supposed to play around a card like Dragonlord Ojitai, where I just want to have another creature on the battlefield? Or am I supposed to play another threat and potentially get ruined by Crux of Fate?
It depends. I'd be surprised if Ross had literally nothing left over, but I think he's just got to keep playing to the board in the spot. Just the one creature is not going to be good enough, especially if it doesn't have protection for Foul Tongue Invocation in his hand already.
There's Bioblight. Adam very quickly sacrificed that Flooded Strand, too. You don't see Adam move that quick that often, but this is a really nice turn for him. Bioblight and Foul Tongue Invocation are going to get the job done, clear the board up. We'll see what Ross has left in reserve. There's at least one Treasure Cruise. Actually looks like two.
So at the end of the day, it was probably net positive for Ross there that he went ahead and cast the Hoplite there.
Yeah, I think so. Here's a Hero of Iroas and a passing of the turn. Looks like Ross wants to leave up his Disdainful Stroke. Somebody a little scared of a dragon.
Well, with Treasure Cruise in hand, I feel like Ross is in a position where he can beat removal spells, but he may not be able to beat a dragon, so he needs to protect himself from that.
Windswept Heat, the draw. Nice one there for the Treasure Cruise in hand. He'll play and sacrifice that. Ross going to go down to 19. Life total doesn't very matter all that much for him, however.
Interesting here that Ross, compared to the build we saw Tom Ross play in Syracuse, playing a lot more temples. Tom's deck was a lot more streamlined.
Yeah, and Ross went through some changes, as did Tom. And I know that Todd Anderson wrote about Ban Heroic being an option this week for his regional PTQ that he's playing in this weekend. I think he said he was going to play that deck. And the build has changed quite a bit since Syracuse when Tom did make the top 8. So Ross wants to move forward here. He is playing against a lot of open mana, which can represent a lot of different things. He's going to start with the Seeker of the Way. Now he will attack.
I think Ross just wants to see if there's Foul Tongue Invocation in the hand.
Yep. That's a Bioblight. And what's nice there is that if there's a removal spell, it's another card in the graveyard for Treasure Cruise.
Exactly.
And now here is Treasure Cruise. Conveniently going to cost 2 mana, which means he can't leave Disdainful Stroke up. So now we're going to go back Yurchick's way. Yurchick's still at 4. There's Dragon Lord Ojutai. Where's that Disdainful Stroke? You got to counter that thing. Ross going to take 2 to counter it. I think he'd take 10 to counter it. He's going to quickly untap. Can he finish Yurchick off?
No price would be high enough in that spot.
I don't think that Merriam can.
I think his hand's just creatures and a Stubborn Denial.
Yeah. So now you've got this little game yet again of, all right, how much am I supposed to deploy? He's going to deploy his favorite Hoplite and pass the turn back. Yurchick does not find a good draw. He will concede the game. So Ross Merriam's going to tie things up here against Adam Yurchick. Ban Heroic and Esper Dragons, well, they're going to play a third one.
And again, the counter spells are so important for aggressive strategies to beat the Esper Dragons list, particularly Disdainful Stroke, because the Dragons are good enough to catch up someone who's behind on the board because they're so large and their impact on the board is so significant.
Looks like Adam's going to go back to the drawing board. Perhaps Ross will too. While those players do that, we will talk about our IQ circuit. We've actually got some new IQ stuff coming out right now. Not hard to get signed up, and if you do have them, you can have the modern, you can have the premier ones like we have at our Open Series events. You can have our supers, our elites, a bevy of options available, which is what really makes the IQs pretty sweet.
Well, it's a great opportunity just to have some more local organized play if that's what you're interested in. If you want to qualify for the Invitational, well, that's why they're called Invitational qualifiers. It's the best route.
Smart
best route to
branding.
do that. On top of that, for many of our players who are competing in the Players' Championship, this is where they do a lot of the work. And for players like Anthony Lowry, who currently has 2 buys in our Open Series, most of the points generated have been from the IQs. All these kits come with playmats, dice bag, creature collection pins, top 8 pins, premium vouchers. Some of this stuff is for everyone who signs up. Some of this is top 8 exclusive, and you can always find out more information at StarCityGames.com.
IQ is very helpful for a lot of players who played in our Players' Championship last year. Kevin Jones, Jim Davis, Logan Mai, Stephen Mann. It's just a nice way to have competitive play at your local store.
Yeah, and that's what I really like about Star City Games' organized play, especially now with Game Night. I mean, from Game Night to the IQs, it feels like if you're looking for some pretty casual, just get people to show up and play some games and check out your store, Game Night fills that option. And then if you're looking to ratchet up the competitive organized play at your store, and the IQ circuit can do a lot of work there as well.
Didn't have stuff like that back in our day.
Well, I played during Arena,
Okay.
which is, I guess, kind of like SCG Game Night, just not quite as well run.
I just had box tournaments, and I had the local Wednesday tournament.
We were ahead of our time in New Jersey on the big cash tournaments. Target had, $250, $500 FNMs, and this is back when that was just not a thing. And that's where a lot of people got their skills sharpened because it brought out the sharks.
Yeah. I just had the old $5 box tournament at the local store every Saturday.
We have some FNM top 8s that are better than most Grand Prix top 8s. We'll go through the archives and find it, but I think we have some 1,000 lifetime Pro Point FNMs.
Nice.
Top
Very
8s.
nice. Remember there
Gerard
was
Fabiano among them.
Of course.
Of course.
One of my favorite Adam Yurchick memories is we top 8'd a PTQ together in Detroit, where the top 8 was Adam, myself, Kyle Boggamies, who is a Pro Tour runner-up, and he got 9th place at Pro Tour Dragon's Dark here, Grand Prix champion as well. Some guy named Owen Turtenwald.
Some guy.
And some guy named Patrick Chapin.
Yeah. Good squad.
Yeah, not bad. And Patrick, I think, if memory serves, conceded to Kyle in the finals. Chapin playing Next Level Blue, not much of a surprise there. And Kyle Boggamies playing Zoo. But that was a loaded PTQ to start with, and it was a loaded top 8 as well. A really fun tournament to play in, actually. I got knocked out by Chapin in the quarterfinals. I was playing a destructive flow strategy.
You seem like the type.
A very bad deck.
And Destructive Flow did have a place in time.
No, yeah, I mean, it was good in that particular format. Looking back at some of the decks I've qualified for Pro Tours with, and I did win a PTQ with that deck the next week, and that deck was not good. It was not good. But sometimes Tarmogoyf and Dark Confidant and a combination of cards is good enough.
Yep. Sometimes I wonder if Destructive Flow will ever get a chance to shine in Legacy. I doubt it just because it's worse most of the time than Blood Moon and way harder to cast.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind seeing the occasional lock. Could bring it back.
Yeah, you can cast that thing on turn 2.
Oh, yeah.
Good night.
Turn 1 Swamp, Simian Spirit Guide, Elvish Spirit Guide. We're done.
Yep.
That's all of it.
See you later, man. A Dismal Backwater to start things off here for Yurchick. Destructive Flow, very powerful on a Chrome Mox.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Really good stuff. Oh, the Trailblazer.
More protection from Foul Tongue Invocation.
It's going to die to an ultimate price. There's a Temple of Enlightenment from Ross. See if he has another 1-drop here. He does not, which is really good news for Yurchick. He'll play a Thoughtseize, get a good look at Merriam's hand. A God's Willing and Battle-Wise Hoplite. 2 copies of Defiant Strike. Let's make it 2 copies of God's Willing. And then an Ordeal of Thassa.
I think Adam is going to select Battle-Wise Hoplite and leave Ross with a hand of creature pump spells.
Good commentary.
These are the risks when you're playing heroic strategies. You only got so many creatures, and Thoughtseize into removal spell. Sometimes your hand just doesn't function.
Take a draw. That's a good draw.
That's a big one.
That's a favorite hoplite. Yurchick will draw. Pluto Delta is the land. Passing of the turn. Merriam will draw. Monastery Mentor is what he's picked up. He's going to play a Defiant Strike. And Adam's going to play a copy of Foul Tongue Invocation. Another Defiant Strike. So that one's going to resolve, as Ross is on the hunt for lands. Doesn't get to draw a card from the second Defiant Strike, or the original one. Pass that turn back over to Yurchick.
He has found a Hero of Iroh's for his trouble, so he's at least found a backup creature, but the tempo of the game right now going very poorly for Ross, and if Adam has one of his big plays, Think Through Time, one of his dragons, Ross is going to be struggling this game, I suspect.
And this is the kind of turn where if Adam just sacrifices his fetch land, plays the 5th land, draws Strangler Ojutai, game's basically done.
Yeah.
We'll see if he has that combination of cards. This is going to fetch out an island with this Blue to Delta. one of those spots where Ojutai is super safe. However, it does not look to be the case. The fifth land is a Temple of Enlightenment, one that enters the battlefield tapped. Yurchick going to take a look at the top card. It's going to become the bottom. We'll head back Merriam's way. It's got some real catching up to do. Favorite hoplite to draw. See if Ross is willing to tap out this turn for Hero Rose. Looks like he is. He's got so much catching up to do right now that he might just want to go that route, but this is nasty.
He's got to get a thing into play. He can't say go, so.
Slumgar Scorn without revealing a dragon. Pretty filthy. The draw this turn was a Windswept Heath. Merriam will deploy that. Favorite hot play. Pass the turn back over to Yurchick. Yurchick with a Temple of Deceit. Top card stays on top pretty quickly. Merriam looks like he's going to sacrifice his Windswept Heath on upkeep. No movement there from Yurchick, so that will resolve. A Plains is what Merriam's going to look for.
And if Ross is finding a Plains here, I think that means that Dromoka's command is most likely no longer in his deck.
Yeah, it's got to be gone.
Makes sense. It's pretty poor in this matchup. Ross is not really in a position to fight, and the other modes aren't very good.
So Merriam will draw a card here for his turn in just a moment. Picked up another copy of Favorite Hoplite. It's an ordeal. Yurchick will play his Bile Blight. I think we'll see Merriam here in just a moment play his God's Willing. So there's a trigger. Time to scry from the God's Willing. Now Yurchick did know about that God's Willing, so leads you to believe that perhaps he's just trying to get the card out of Merriam's
I think
hand.
the last card in Adam's hand is Ultimate Price.
Aha.
Which is not the end of the world here, as he's still going to be able to get this off the table, but Ross is now starting to find some action.
Yep. Adam will draw. Remember, he left this card on top of his deck. There is the Ultimate Price.
Yeah, he left Dragon Lord Ojutai on top.
Merriam with a decision to make. He's going to go with Monastery Mentor. That's going to resolve. Let's go back to Yurchick. He's tapping 5 mana. There is Ojutai.
Ross took a bit of a risk there. Monastery Mentor was, I think, the big thing he was trying to save for as long as possible, but this might be able to overpower Dragon Lord Ojutai, because when you untap with this, it gets crazy pretty fast.
Yeah, both of these cards that are in play, if you get to untap with them, they're both rather good. And Ross doesn't have a lot of blue mana, so he can't play a lot of blue spells in one turn, like a Treasure Cruise, Stubborn Nile, things like that, or Deal of Thassa as well. But if he can actually go wide here, that damage adds up pretty fast.
The concern for Ross is he can only go too crazy until he has some insurance policy against Crux of Fate, because he can put a lot of tokens into play, but if that all gets undone by a sweeper, Adam's still left with Dragon Lord Ojutai, and it's big trouble for Ross. So even though he has the possibility of having a pretty explosive turn here if he wants it, I think he's going to try to be measured with the way that he paces out until he has an answer to something like Crux of Fate. And it's not just about playing around a Crux of Fate off the top, because Adam's going to get 3 looks of it from a Dragon Lord Ojutai hit.
There's a Defiant Strike. And a Jacob Wilson Monk token.
Making its debut.
How about that?
This is interesting because Ross had the opportunity this turn to play Ordeal of Thassa, Defiant Strike, trigger the Ordeal, and have an army left over, draw a bunch of cards, and even if Adam finds Crux of Fate, have a lot of action left over to play with. It looks like Ross is going down a slightly different path here.
Seeker of the way here. Pass the turn back over to Yurchick.
And Ross does not have a counterspell in his hand. Now, maybe he thinks Adam won't pull the trigger on casting Crux of Fate, even if he finds it, but I think Adam's likely to cast if he finds it. And then Ross is left with a hand with an enchantment and a creature, which is a little bit worse to rebuild with.
Adam going to look at 3 cards. Slow roll himself a little bit, Gerard Fabiano style.
Love it.
Yeah.
Like that this is becoming more and more common in our feature matches.
Gerard has had a real impact on things with the slow roll. He's found a card he's happy enough with. There's a Dismal Backwater. Perhaps it's Dragonlord Slumgar. And it is. It's going to target Monastery Mentor, but Merriam with the God's Willing at the ready. That means another monk token. A lot of triggers here too, a bunch of prowess as well. None of that going to matter too much on this particular turn, but could matter here in just a moment.
Yeah, Ross has built himself a nice little army here.
Yeah, what he wants are spells. He's doing a really nice job of going wide, creating a bunch of small creatures. I think he's trying to figure out if he can get a kill now with the way he's doing math. The tough thing is that he wants to get this game over with quickly because, well, Yurchick trying to do the same thing.
And Ross is still quite vulnerable to Crux of Fate, even with all the work that he's doing right now. So it's got to be very worrisome with Adam getting his draw step, a trigger from Dragonlord Ojutai, other card drawing effects in his deck. Even though Ross is generating a very nice advantage right now, game's not over by a long shot.
Ordeal Thassa is, well, it looks like it's going to be cast. The question is, what does he want to cast it on?
He's going onto a monk token here. It implies to me that he's trying to get a lethal attack this turn.
He's trying close to it.
Trying to spread as much as he can.
So there's a counter. Monastery Mentor is going to be blocked. So Seeker of the Way is going to come across for 3. One of the monks will come across for 3, and another one will come across for 2. It's a pretty good turn.
But short of lethal.
Yeah.
And, again, Adam's still definitely getting his looks here.
Ross going to play, looks like another creature. Yep, Hero of Rose. There is a Windswept Heath and pass the turn back. So he's really moved in quite a bit here.
To say the least.
Yeah. He has really played most of his stuff.
If he gets hit with a sweeper here, it's not like the Hero of Iroas left in his hand means anything.
Yeah. There's a temple. That's where Adam's going to start. That card's going to be bottom. Feels like he's on the hunt for Crux.
I'm guessing yes.
Hey, Bile is still fine here.
That's true.
You know, that's still a really good option.
And if Drowned in Sorrow's in his deck, then Drowned in Sorrow is very, very live here.
With Yurchick here at 2,
Yeah.
gotta figure out what to attack with.
Adam might have been figuring the same thing, like I'm on a sweeper or bust, so maybe I'm supposed to get in with Dragonlord Ojutai as well, or Slumgar as well, but looks like it's just Ojutai. Drowned in Sorrow, Crux of Fate. He's got a lot of good ones.
Yeah, Drown's great.
He even has, I think he may have enough resources to take a dig through time and look that way.
Adam just going to pass the turn back, though. Doesn't look like his hand is all that strong. And he's going to extend it. Ross Merriam's going to win this match over Adam Yurchick. 2-1. Bant Heroic will take care of Esper Dragons. And maybe a little bit of an upset, perhaps?
Adam got a lot of looks at some sweepers there, wasn't able to find it, and Monastery Mentor did a ton of lift in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, remember, Ross stumbled for a while. It looked like that initial Thoughtseize plus Ultimate Price was going to be too much for Ross to overcome. He had some fortuitous draw steps there and finding some creatures, but Adam was still 2 for 1-ing him a bunch with his removal spells. Adam